week's edition of World Crisis Radio, and this is Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C. So this week we had the long-awaited U.S. midterm congressional and related election, and the net effect of this is to massively confirm the warnings I issued starting in January 2008, in which I repeated then in two books, Obama, the Postmodern Coup, from March-April 2008, Barack H. Obama, the Unauthorized Biography, from August 2008, one in advance of the Pennsylvania primary, the second one in advance of the Democratic Convention, warning that Obama was the gravedigger of every progressive cause, the wrecker of the Democratic Party, and the guy who would open the door to a new period of militant reaction and perhaps even proto-fascist reaction. And this is all now confirmed in spades. Take a look at Obama, the Postmodern Coup. It's not good form to evaluate your own work, but it's simply a prophetic book, no way around it. Here, for example, we read, Obama's economics are pure skull and bones, Chicago school austerity, and sacrifice for American working families, all designed to bail out the bankrupt Wall Street elitist financiers who own him. Obama is a recipe for a world tragedy. Obama's candidacy raises the specter of postmodern fascism in the United States today, both in terms of what he represented himself and what he would bring on. And in the course of this book, I do an extended comparison between Obama and Jimmy Carter, showing that the rise of the militant reactionaries, the Christian fundamentalist movement of Falwell and Robertson, the so-called moral majority that then plagued U.S. politics in the 80s and 90s, this was a direct abreaction from the very real horrors of Jimmy Carter. And in the course of the book, I also quote Arthur Schlesinger, the historian, admirer of Roosevelt and part of the Kennedy administration, pointing out that Carter was not a Democrat in any traditional sense. He was a Democrat in the Grover Cleveland sense, right? We know that there's this Wall Street Democrat tradition, Grover Cleveland, Woodrow Wilson, Al Smith, Harry S. Truman, Jimmy Carter, Obama. Those are your Wall Street Democrats, and they are a recipe for disaster. The other direction, of course, is the anti-Wall Street Democratic tradition, and that would be Franklin D. Roosevelt. Obama's relation to him is to destroy Social Security. He'll be trying that now in the lame duck session, starting now in November. His relation to Kennedy, Kennedy's signature issue, the Apollo moonshot, the space program, NASA. What's Obama's line on that? To destroy it, and he has already destroyed most of it. And, of course, Lyndon B. Johnson's greatest achievement, Medicare, great humanitarian program, one of the most successful in U.S. history, along with Social Security. Obama's relation to that is to gouge and loot and sack $1.5 trillion worth of resources out of there. And, yes, there are death panels. There's something called IMAC, Independent Medical Advisory Committee, and MedPAC, Medical Permanent Advisory Council, and MedPAC on steroids. And those are all in there. And those are the panels of elitist technocrats, bureaucrats, all beholden to Wall Street, that attempt to ration care and deny you treatment because the money has to be saved, of course, because of the needs of the next Wall Street bailout. So that's some idea of Obama, the Postmodern Coup. For the other one, Barack H. Obama, the Unauthorized Biography. From the point of view of today, just take a look at the cover of that book. Go to Tarpley.net, which you should be going there a couple of times a week under any circumstances. But go to Tarpley.net and take a look at the masterful cartoon done by Joe Azar, one of the great geniuses of the modern political cartoon. He was kind enough to help me with this. And here we see Obama, the aloof elitist, wrapped up in his narcissism, megalomania, a million miles away from the concerns of working families, with his snooty nose pointed up in the air, putting on airs, his dubious wife behind him, and then, of course, Rezko the gangster, pockets full of money, submachine gun, Chicago gangster, Bernardine Dorn, the passionaria of the Maoist and then terrorist weatherman wing of SDS, and Bill Ayers with his weatherman bomb, right, his typical anarchist bomb that he's about to throw, not to mention Reverend Jeremiah Wright, the foundation-funded provocateur, and his sign, God Damn America, and above all, Zbigniew Brzezinski with the strings attached to Obama's hands. But underneath all this mass of monstrous lunacy, the Democratic donkey crushed, essentially defunct, on the ground with this crew of individuals. And that's what we have now. And unfortunately, it's not funny because this represented the abortion of one of those key moments in American politics. It could have been a party realignment, right? We've had them every 30 to 40 years. You know the drill. 1896 confirmed the Republican dominance that had been around since 1860. 1932 opened the New Deal cycle, the best one we've ever had. 1968, unfortunately, closed it because of the foolishness of Johnson, his tragic suicidal flaw, going along with the Harvard boutique on the Vietnam War. The McGeorge Bundy faction convinced him to do it and to stay there. And, of course, the Kennedy assassination made this possible. Then, after 1968, 40 years later, was 2008. So that was about time for one of these party realignments to take place. What we see now is that the demagogy of hope and change, the messianic rhetoric, the inflated utopian promises, the absolute hysteria around Obama cannot last. As I pointed out in Obama, the Postmodern Coup, if you run for office on a rational program of clearly defined demands, people know what they're getting, and once you're in office, you can say, look here, you congressman, I have a popular mandate to do exactly what I ran on, and you had better go along with it. When you run on hope and change, of course, that allows any fool to project anything he wants into that empty category. And once it's clear that these extravagant promises about reinventing government and changing the process in Washington, all these essentially meaningless process questions, which are nevertheless important for the fussy independents and petty bourgeois, once it's clear you can't deliver on that because those represent real economic interests that cannot be suppressed in a democratic representative government, then there's a huge hangover. So this is now the hangover, the app reaction. And it means that these progressive causes, if you care about them, labor and the fate of working families in the United States above all, this requires one thing, and this is now the theme of this broadcast, and I guess has been for a while: dump Obama. Dump Obama. Dump Obama. Get him out of there. This is now a failure. It was interesting to watch the various networks on Tuesday evening, the MSNBC one in particular. There is no attempt to hold Obama accountable by these Wall Street corporate stooges, the Immelt group, right, the GE, NBC, MSNBC group. They don't want to hold Obama accountable because they, I guess, hope to blackmail him for another 2 years and get things that they want at the top. No critique of how Obama has dragged down all of these Democratic candidates, that Obama had coattails in the form of albatrosses and sheet anchors around the necks of so many of these people, right, who could have won, right? This character, Sestak, let's take him in Pennsylvania. His opponent, Pat Toomey, a raving reactionary ideologue with proto-fascist tendencies. The Club for Growth, meaning strip American working families of every achievement. In the end of the campaign, Sestak began attacking free trade. He began attacking the sellouts. He began attacking Toomey as a derivatives trader, a Wall Street hedge fund hyena. But of course, the Obama drag was enough to put Toomey, the ideologue, into the Senate. That's the problem. We'll be back in just a minute.